You are being tested right now. Not by your boss, not by your mother-in-law, not even by that one friend who always has something to say about your life choices. No, darling. You are being tested by something far grander, far more precise, and honestly, far more dramatic than any of those people could ever dream of being. You are being tested by the universe itself. And the question it is asking you, quietly, through every inconvenient circumstance and every maddening delay, through every door that slams shut just as you reach for the handle, is simply this: do you actually believe what you say you believe? Or are you just talking? And that right there is the question that most people never stop long enough to answer honestly. They say, I believe things are working out for me. And then the first hiccup comes along and they're on the phone with their best friend saying, nothing ever works out for me. They say, I trust the process. And then the process takes a Tuesday they did not plan for, and suddenly all that trust evaporates like morning dew in Lagos heat. Gone, vanished, as if it was never there. I want to talk to you today about something that changed everything for me, something that I believe will shift the ground beneath your feet if you let it. And that something is this radical, slightly uncomfortable, deeply liberating truth. The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you believe. And it will keep sending you tests, disguised as problems, until it is absolutely convinced that your belief is real, not just decorative. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking, here we go. Another person about to tell me to think positive and everything will be fine. And to that I say, no, that is not what this is. Because positive thinking without genuine inner conviction is just wishful daydreaming with a better vocabulary. What I am talking about is something deeper, something that requires a little more courage than just slapping a vision board on your wall and calling it faith. Let us start at the very beginning, shall we? Because I think a lot of us are walking around carrying a very confused idea of how this whole thing works. We hear things like, speak it into existence, and the law of attraction. And we think it means that if we say the right words often enough, the universe will just hand us what we asked for like a cosmic vending machine. You put in your affirmation, you press the button, out comes your blessing. Simple, efficient, predictable. But the universe is not a vending machine, sweetheart. It is more like a very wise, slightly mischievous teacher. And that teacher has a very specific method of instruction. It gives you exactly the conditions that will reveal what you truly believe, not what you say you believe. There is a difference, a very significant difference. And until you understand that difference, you will keep feeling like your prayers are going unanswered, like your affirmations are bouncing off the ceiling, like you are doing everything right and still getting nowhere. Here is how it works. And I want you to really listen to this, because it is the heart of everything I am going to say to you today. When you set an intention, when you make a declaration, when you claim something for your life, the universe does not immediately send it to you. First, it sends you a test. It sends you a situation that is specifically designed to reveal whether you genuinely believe what you just declared, or whether you were just feeling inspired for a moment and got a little carried away. Think about it this way. Imagine you told everyone you know that you are a strong swimmer. You have been saying it for months. You feel quite good about it. And then one day someone throws you in the deep end of the pool, not to drown you, but to see if you actually know how to swim. That is the test. That is the universe doing its due diligence. It is not being cruel. It is being thorough. And here is where most people make the critical mistake. When the test arrives, they do not recognize it as a test. They experience it as a failure. They experience it as evidence that things are not working, that they were foolish to hope, that maybe this whole belief business is not for them. And at that exact moment, at the very moment they are standing at the edge of their breakthrough, they turn around and walk back to where they came from. And the universe watches them leave and says, noted, come back when you're ready. I want to tell you about a woman I once knew who spent years praying for a better financial situation. Every morning she would say, infinite supply is mine. Abundance flows to me freely and continuously. Beautiful words, genuinely meant. And then an unexpected expense would arrive, and she would panic. She would catastrophize. She would call everyone she knew and lament about how things never changed. Now, the prayer was real. The desire was real, but the belief, the deep down, no one is watching belief, was still shaky. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, kept sending her unexpected expenses, not to punish her, but to keep asking her the same question. Do you actually believe in your supply, or only when the bank account agrees with you? This is the thing that I need you to truly grasp today. Your belief is only real to the degree that it holds up under pressure. Anyone can believe in abundance when money is flowing. Anyone can believe in love when everything feels warm and easy. Anyone can believe in their own potential when things are going well. The test, the real test, is whether you can hold on to that belief when the outer circumstances are screaming the exact opposite. And I say this not to intimidate you. I say this because there is something extraordinarily exciting about understanding this. Because once you understand that difficulty is not evidence of failure, but evidence of a test, everything changes. Every obstacle becomes a question the universe is asking you. Every delay becomes an opportunity to demonstrate that your faith is more than just fair weather. Every moment of discomfort becomes a chance to show up as the version of yourself who genuinely believes. Now, let us talk about the science of this for a moment, because I know some of you are sitting there thinking, this sounds lovely, but is there anything real behind it? And the answer is yes. Let us talk about what is known as cognitive dissonance. It is a concept from psychology that describes the discomfort a person feels when their beliefs and their behaviors or circumstances do not align. When there is a gap between what you say you believe and what your nervous system actually registers as true, your whole system experiences friction. And that friction shows up in your life as delay, as resistance, as the feeling that you are pushing against something invisible. Here is the fascinating part. The brain, in its brilliance, is always trying to close that gap. It is always trying to create consistency between what you believe and what you experience. So if on the surface you are saying, I believe I will be successful, but underneath, in the deeper chambers of your subconscious, there is a voice saying, people like me do not really succeed. Your brain will unconsciously work to validate the deeper belief, not the surface one. It will notice the evidence that supports the fear and filter out the evidence that supports the hope. Not because it is mean, but because it is doing exactly what it is designed to do. It is maintaining consistency. This is why your words alone are not enough. This is why you can repeat an affirmation 1,000 times and still not see results. Because the universe and your own magnificent subconscious is not listening to the words. It is reading the signal behind the words. It is feeling for the frequency of genuine conviction. And if that frequency is not there, if there is a wobble, if there is an undertone of doubt dressed up in hopeful language, then what you are transmitting is not faith. It is fear wearing faith's coat. And the universe, I assure you, knows the difference. So what do you do? How do you actually build real belief, not just the performance of belief? I want to give you a very simple framework. I call it the 3-layer test, and it works like this. The first layer is what you say. This is the most obvious level. It is your affirmations, your declarations, the things you tell people when they ask how you are doing. Most people spend all their energy here, and it is the least powerful of the 3 layers. But it is still necessary. Words matter. They begin the process of reprogramming. So yes, keep saying the good things, but know that the words are just the entrance to the temple, not the temple itself. The second layer is what you feel when no one is looking. This is where most of the real work happens. When you wake up at 3 in the morning and the thought comes, the panicked, spiraling, catastrophic thought, what do you actually feel? What does your body do? This is your true belief signal. This is the layer the universe reads most carefully. And this is the layer that most people completely ignore in their spiritual work because it is uncomfortable to look at. It is much easier to keep saying the right things and hope the feelings catch up eventually. But they will not catch up on their own. You have to actively work the second layer. And you do that through what I call evidence gathering. Every single day, you look for evidence, however small, however seemingly insignificant. that what you believe is actually true. You train your mind to notice the proof of your good rather than the proof of your fear. You look for the small miracle, the unexpected kindness, the door that opened just a little, the moment that suggested things are moving even when the movement is invisible. You collect those moments. You write them down. You let them become the dominant story your nervous system tells itself. The third layer is what you do when the test arrives. And this is the layer that seals everything. This is the layer that shows the universe, and frankly shows yourself, that your belief is not just atmospheric. It is structural. It is weight-bearing. When the challenge comes, when the contradiction shows up, when the circumstance says one thing and your declaration says another, what do? Do you panic and contract? Or do you stand in the middle of the chaos and say, quietly, firmly, with genuine inner knowing, this is not the final word. I trust what I cannot yet see. That is the moment. That is the test. That is the whole thing right there. Let me give you a practical example of how this plays out in real life, because I think abstract philosophy is beautiful, but we need to be able to use it on a Tuesday when things are going sideways. Say you have been declaring that the right opportunity is coming to you. You have been consistent. You have been doing the inner work. And then you get a rejection. A door closes. Something you wanted very much does not come through. And now you have a choice. You can interpret that rejection as evidence that nothing is working, that you were deluded, that you should probably lower your expectations and settle for something more realistic. Or you can hold still for just one moment, take a breath, and ask a different question. What if this rejection is the universe protecting me from something that would have taken me further away from where I am meant to be? What if this closed door is redirecting me to the door that is actually mine? Now, I know that sounds easy to say and hard to feel in the moment. I know that. I am not going to pretend that standing in disappointment and choosing a different interpretation is a simple thing. It is not. It takes practice. It takes the deliberate, conscious decision to be the kind of person who trusts the larger story, even when the current chapter is confusing. But here is the extraordinary thing about making that choice consistently. Every time you make it, every time you hold your belief steady in the face of contradiction, you strengthen something inside you. You build what I think of as spiritual muscle memory. And over time, the tests become easier to navigate. Not because the universe stops sending them, but because you start recognizing them for what they are. You start seeing the test and almost smiling, because you know that the test means you are close to something. The test means the thing you declared is becoming real enough that it needs to see whether you are ready for it. Think about gold. Gold is not just pulled out of the ground and put on display. It goes through fire. The fire does not destroy the gold. The fire purifies the gold. It burns away everything that is not gold until what remains is the real thing, pure and valuable and ready to be used for its highest purpose. You are the gold. The tests are the fire. And everything that gets burned away in those difficult moments, the doubt, the fear, the smallness, the need for external validation, that is not you. That is the stuff that was never yours to carry. Now I want to speak to those of you who are carrying something particularly heavy right now, because I know this is not all sunshine and declaration. I know that some of you are dealing with things that feel genuinely overwhelming. Real problems, real pain, real uncertainty. And you might be hearing all of this and thinking, that is all very well, but you do not know what I am facing. And you are right. I do not know the specifics of your situation, but I know this. The size of your test is proportional to the magnitude of what is coming for you. The universe does not give enormous tests to people who are destined for small things. The intensity of what you are facing is, in the most profound sense, a compliment. It means the universe sees something in you worth testing. It means there is something significant enough in your future that it requires this level of refinement in your present. That does not make it easy, but it does make it meaningful. And meaning, my friend, is the thing that changes everything. When you can look at your difficulty and say, I do not fully understand this yet, but I trust it is serving something, you take the power back. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and become a student of them. And students, unlike victims, Graduate. Let me tell you about the moment I first truly understood this principle, not as an idea, not as something I had read, but as lived truth. There was a season in my life when everything I had built seemed to be falling apart at once. Things I had prayed for, worked toward, believed in with tremendous conviction, were crumbling. And the temptation was enormous to interpret that crumbling as failure, as divine abandonment, as evidence that maybe I had gotten it all wrong. But I made a decision in that season that changed the trajectory of everything that came after. I decided, consciously, deliberately, sometimes stubbornly, to hold on to the truth that something greater was being arranged. I could not see it. I had no evidence of it in the physical world. But I chose to act as if I believed it. I chose to keep speaking with faith, to keep moving as though the good were already on its way, to keep my eyes open for the small confirmations that reminded me the universe was still in motion. And what came after that season was so far beyond what I had originally prayed for, that I genuinely laughed when I saw it. The original thing I wanted, the thing whose loss had felt so devastating, was a small version of what actually arrived. The crumbling had not been destruction. It had been renovation, and renovation always looks like a mess before it looks like a masterpiece. I want you to hear that. Whatever is currently looking like a mess in your life, it may very well be the renovation that precedes the masterpiece. But you have to stay in the building. You cannot walk out just because the dust is thick right now. So, here is what I want you to do, right now. Not tomorrow, not when things get better, not when you feel more ready. Right now. I want you to identify the one thing in your life that you have been declaring, praying for, believing for, and where the test has arrived in some form. It might be a relationship that seems uncertain, a financial situation that does not match your declarations, a health challenge that is demanding more of you than you feel you have, a dream that seems to keep getting delayed. Identify it, name it. And then I want you to do something that might feel small but is actually enormous. I want you to refuse to interpret the current circumstances as